Hey there guys, welcome to a new video. I haven't done Warframe videos in a very long time, mostly because, just being busy with life and other stuff and streams being the bigger focus. But with recently joining the Warframe Partner Program again, I've been enjoying a lot of time playing Warframe. I've been enjoying, just build crafting and all that kind of stuff. And I figured with the new update, with a lot of the changes coming to Exalted abilities, the new Coda weapons and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of testing to be done and a lot of build crafting to be done. Currently, with the way we currently sit with Warframe, the current meta of the game is very, very fun. The build crafting that is possible and the speed at which the game is played has been simplified, but at the same time it's pretty fun. The demigod factor of being a Warframe that can just mow down entire hordes of enemies also does a pretty good job at what it does. And with the new changes coming in with the Exalted abilities, I'm sure you've already seen a lot of other builds from other content creators covering Excal, but today I wanted to showcase a build that I'm currently using. Even though I have Excal Prime, Excalibur Umbra is the one that I went with. The reason for that I will show you is quite simple. When it comes to Excalibur, there are two main subsumes that I'm currently using. I wanted to find a build for Excal that not only pumps out a lot of damage, also has decent survivability. Whether you do normal mode, whether you do steel path mode, I wanted to have a build that was comfortable enough to do pretty much all the content that the game offers, while also giving good survivability, while also offering a bit of immunity from CC effects, but also being able to, do area clears and wipe out entire platoons of enemies. And with a little bit of theory crafting and a bit of build crafting, I came up with a couple of builds that I really, really liked. The first build is using Warcry as my subsume, and the second one is using Zata's Whisper as the subsume. Now, out of the two builds, I like Warcry more in terms of general comfy play, but Zata also is very good because it does a lot of damage. Just to kind of give you an explanation about how these builds work, I will just showcase the Warcry build, I will showcase the Zata build, and then I'll show you the weapon build as well that I'm using for my Exalted Blade. For Warcry, it's pretty simple. The idea is swing a lot, do a lot of damage, spread a lot of status, nuke entire rooms, but also stay alive. The bonus of Excalibur Umbra is that he comes with 3 Umbral slots. I don't have Umbral Former right now. I ran out, so this is actually the next best thing. Having Umbral Vitality, Umbral Fiber, and Umbral Intensify gives me a maximum bonus for the Tau mods being equipped. So I've got 77% power strength there, which turns it into 177% power strength, which is more than enough. I don't really need that much more power strength. It gives me a decent amount of armor, gives me a decent amount of vitality and health, basically. Prime Short-Footed is a quality of life mod that I really, really like just for survivability. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but it does a pretty good job of keeping me alive. And I think if you are one of those players that just likes quality of life, then Prime Short-Footed may end up being a mod that a lot of you end up using, but it is a flex slot that you can replace. Bear in mind, I've bought a lot of Omniformer and I've been slowly working my way through my list of them. So I've slotted on 4 Omni slots on this Warframe right now, just because, that's how I wanted to do it. So 1 for the, Aura slot, 1 for the Excellus slot, and then 2 other flex slots on the actual Warframes itself. Prime continuity helps with the efficiency of my Exalted Blade, plus it also gives me longer duration for my other abilities, including Warcry. My Prime Flow gives me a bigger energy pool to start off to work with, so I have more energy just available from the get-go, which also, allows me to keep my Exalted Blade running. Now, I really, really like the utility of Arcane Energize, but at the same time, I don't think it's really necessary in this build. The reason for that is I am using Hunter Adrenaline. It converts 45% of damage on your health to energy. Since you're built for health tanking anyway, this means you are going to be constantly regenerating energy. This Hunter Adrenaline works with channeled abilities. You do not need to turn off your Exalted Blade. You will get energy just for taking damage on your health. So this has direct synergy with your Umbral mods. So that's the other reason why I'm using the Umbral set over here. It's just beneficial for being tanky and being able to survive while you're doing steel pot stuff. Chromatic Blade is obviously the augment of choice for the Exalted Blade, mostly because of how it functions. It changes the damage based on the Excalibur's emissive color, and status chance is also increased by 300%. And that is also modded by power strength. This is the type of build that really takes advantage of as much status chance as you can get. So the more you can stack is better, but honestly, 500% is already pretty good. You don't really need an excess of status chance. The reason I say this is because the type of game Warframe is, it's not really necessary for you to be able to do 2 billion damage per swing when 200k damage will still kill the enemy. For the kind of Warframe experience that most players play, you really don't need that kind of damage. Of course, I'm not talking to the min-maxers, I'm not talking to the number crunchers, I'm not talking about to the people who like seeing bigger number brain go haha. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the general player base nowadays who play a lot more casually, who play you know, wherever they can fit their time in, and they can just jump into a mission and do a lot of farming. As someone who's been a endurance runner, someone who's done a lot of min-maxing and all that kind of stuff in the past, I now play Warframe in a way where it is most optimized to have the most fun. This for me is something that is a good balance of damage output, survivability, and just general comfiness, but it also hits like a freight train. Eternal War is the other augment that I'm using for Warcry because it is now procced by the waves of Exalted Blade. That is a very good thing because you don't have to worry about keeping Eternal War active by being in the faces of enemies. You can literally just hold E. The waves will proc Eternal War. It will keep it up permanently. Eternal War is very good because it gives you a armor increase, it gives you a speed increase, and also slows down other enemies as well. So it's very effective with this particular build. Because I'm using Eternal War and the speed bonuses it gives me, I don't need to use Arcane Strike. Instead, I'm using Arcane Blessing. Because I'm building for HP tanking to begin with, Arcane Blessing works upon that even further because it gives you even more HP. You can get up to like, I think 2k HP or something on the other. And then Arcane Guardian, because since you're building for health tanking and armor tanking, more armor from Arcane Guardian is always a good thing as well to kind of slap on top as well. With the Zata's Whisper build, it is mostly the same with one major change. Well, two changes. The first one is we have removed, or rather we don't have an augment for Zata's Whisper. So instead I've thrown on adaptation for more survivability. Because we're not using Arcane Blessing here, adaptation will give you more survivability and more EHP in the long run as well, which will help you keep yourself alive. This build still functions in the same way where you've got Prime Sure-Footed for knockdown prevention, you've got your 3 Umbral mods for HP tanking, you've got Prime Continuity and Prime Flow, and then you've also got Hunter Adrenaline, which is giving you energy whenever you take damage to your health. Chromatic Blade is also going to be a mainstay here. That's not going to change. Now, the difference is, while I'm still using Arcane Guardian because it just works in both of the builds, the second Arcane is now changed to Arcane Strike. Because Arcane Strike has a 15% chance for 60% attack speed for melee weapons for 18 seconds, which is great because this essentially replaces what Warcry does. So this is why you don't need Arcane Strike in the first build, but in the second one, yes, you do. So this basically allows you to make up for the lack of Warcry from the first build, and the adaptation makes up for the lack of Arcane Blessing from the first build. So that's where these two builds essentially are different from each other. But at the same time, they do a very good job of clearing out entire groups of enemies. Warcry personally is one of those builds that I like a lot because just it's a very comfy kind of setup. But Zata does a lot more damage because, you know, you're going to be doing the void type of damage. Nothing is really resistant to it from what I remember. Everything is either neutral to it or is weak to it. You know what I mean? So essentially, you're going to be doing a lot of damage with all of your other elements that you've got going on. And then you're also doing void damage and it all piles on together. Plus, you know, enemies get the bubble around them, which is always the funky kind of mechanic interaction. Having said all of that, let's now talk about the melee weapon. So while I like Exalted Blade from the Excal Prime version, because it doesn't come with 2 of these umbral polarities. You can still make this work because, again, you overforma or you use omniforma and it eventually just works. For this build, melee influence is going to be here. Melee influence is just too good to not use, and it just effectively works really, very well for this particular build. The way melee influence works, as we all know, and for the other people who don't know, is whenever you proc a electrical status, 20% chance for the elemental melee status effects to apply to enemies within 20 meters for 18 seconds. Essentially what this means is you apply an electrical status effect to the enemy, and all the enemies in an 20 meter radius, will basically have a 20% chance to have all of these other status effects be applied to them. You proc electricity, you hit them with radiation, gas, and magnetic. So just to kind of break down what the build itself is doing, you don't need any of the other like Blood Rush or any of the mods. If you wanted to put them on, you absolutely can put them on, but they're overkill. You absolutely don't need them, and I'll tell you why. You've got Condition Overload here, you've got Galvanized Elementalist over here, and you've got Melee Influence. These 3 things combined already do so much damage with everything that you've got going on. And the fact that you've also built for magnetic damage, which is going to give you, well, the magnetic and the attack speed. You've got radiation, which is giving you radiation and heavy attack efficiency. Although we don't really care about the heavy attack efficiency, not really. All you're going to be doing is holding E and just swinging away. You've got Molten Impact combining with Prime Fever Strike, which is giving you the gas damage. And then you got Voltaic Strike, which is giving you electricity. But because I'm using the Status Elemental mod, it's giving even more status chance. Having higher status chance is always good, because the more status chance you have, the more elemental effects are applied at a time. So I think when you get over 100, as you can see over here, it says value over 100% have a chance to inflict multiple status effects, which is great, because you can proc electric, you can proc gas, and then the gas bombs explode and kill everything in an AoE around you as well, and it just wipes out entire rooms. This build will wipe out rooms without you having to worry about anything, without you having to worry about survivability or any of that kind of stuff. It's just that good. Now, this is a mod I didn't think I would ever end up using, but surprisingly, Healing Return is a mod that works really, really well with this build. As you can imagine, based on what you're reading here, it says restore 11 health per status type affecting the target. You are going to be spreading all of these status effects, radiation, electric, gas, magnetic, in an AoE around you. The entire room is going to be stinking of gas procs. They're going to be electrified by all the electricity procs. They're going to be confused with all the radiation damage. They're going to be, attracted to you with all the magnetic damage. I don't know why I'm saying these things, but I am. Anyway, my point is, you're applying so many different status effects at the same time that this is going to be constantly healing you. And this, remember, it's restoring your health. And since we're building for health tanking to begin with, this build is all going to come together really, really well. And it's just going to let you keep yourself constantly healed, constantly topped off. I've tried this in Steel Path survivals and, like 20 minutes runs, 40-minute runs, an hour run, and all that kind of stuff. And it works very comfortably. It lets you stay alive. It lets you keep killing. It lets you heal yourself whenever you take any extra damage. The only things that you have to be care of is anything that has one-shot potential. So enemies that apply gas procs, or anything that does enough damage that it can just nuke your entire health pool through your armor, through your EHP, and all that kind of stuff. That is going to be the only thing that essentially kills you. Anything else, nothing else is really going to kill you, because you're just constantly healing yourself. Now, I can give you some examples, and I will give you some examples. In fact, let's quickly go to the simulacrum, and I'll show you a couple of examples of what I mean in terms of survivability. All right. Here's an example of how the Warcry build is going to be looking in action. Obviously, you want to keep your energy topped off. Even if you don't have the energy to start off with, it doesn't really matter, because enemies attacking you will keep you topped off with energy too, because of Hunter Adrenaline. You have enemies in front of you, you activate your 4, you activate Warcry, and then you go to town slashing away. As you can see, the Healing Return is going to keep healing you. If you pick up any health orbs, you're going to end up increasing your HP, as an example you can see over there. And you've got Warcry, which is also being procced off of the waves. This time, you don't actually have to be in melee range, which means Warcry will basically be up with 100% uptime. All right, let's showcase the Zarta's build as well. The concept is still the same. Activate your ult, activate Zarta's Whisper, and then slash away. Any status you apply will keep you healed up. The attack speed bonus from Arcane Strike will give you the attack speed bonus as well. The best combo is holding W and just slashing away, and you will kill everything. Zarta's Whisper basically applies void damage. Void damage is a special type that basically increases the amount of damage done to overguard. So if you are fighting enemies which have a lot of overguard, which is, you know, a lot of them in Steel Path, you're just going to be tearing through that overguard as well, alongside the magnetic procs and all the other procs that you're doing as well on top of that. It is also neutral to all other health types, so it's not increased, it's not decreased, but it's just going to do more damage because it stacks on top. It's a status effect. When it comes to the Archon shards for Excalibur, realistically, you have a couple of choices that you want to go with. I haven't even chosen any so far for this build. Having said that, for some of the more interesting choices would be ability strength. You could also go with melee critical damage, but at the same time, you have to remember, if you are going for melee critical damage, and if you can invest into purple shards, I would probably go with the purple shards just because it gives you the extra melee critical damage, and it gives you double the melee critical damage if your energy is over 500, which it's going to be because you're using Prime Flow to kind of keep yourself sustained. Another shard that you can also use is the Amber shards. You can take advantage of the 75% effectiveness of energy orbs, or you could also take advantage of the maximum energy filled on spawn, so that way you can ult straight away and just slash in away. You can also put in one for energy max or armor or even health if you want to have more survivability and more tankiness as well thrown into the mix. So when it comes to it, it's up to you what your playstyle is. Do you want more offense or do you want more defense? And I think that pretty much wraps up this video and this particular build. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. Again, my philosophy for Warframe has changed quite a bit. It's more focused around comfy builds with a little bit of min-maxing thrown in as well at the same time. It's not just a case of big numbers. It's a case of usability, survivability, comfiness, and damage output as well at the same time, fitting into the current meta of Warframe. If you enjoyed this build, I'm going to leave you with some gameplay footage, just a couple of minutes, just to see what it looks like in actual practice in a Steel Path survival. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and I shall see you in the next one.